Well, we'll just eat some yogurt here. This is a different style. Let's get some yogurt in the microphone. Let's do that. Let's get some nice peanut butter, some true nut with some phytic acid for the anti-nutrients. I'm just starved for sugar right now. Starved for sugar. Been walking in the desert for a little bit. Walking through the dry desert. I was going to talk about nothing at all. I was going to talk about talking about nothing. Going to talk about nakedness. How, like, when I say a lot of words, it's kind of like clothing on a body. And the fact is, we're all naked and we will be naked. But in this intermediary time, we've got clothes on, which means that you can't see the nakedness. The nakedness, which is the true state of humanity, is obscured by the clothing. And even the body itself is a form of clothing, right? The body is an ephemeral thing that we sort of put upon ourselves, that we grow in the same way that we grow cotton to make clothing. The body is like an artifact, right? It's something that we put on top of ourselves as a signifier, right? No, it's just one of the ways we get ahead. It's a presentation. It's not even a representation of who we are, right? So that's like a totally, at some point, like, nakedness, the worship of nakedness, that's kind of like a body worship, right? If you worship the naked body, then you're kind of like in the body, right? If you worship the naked body, you love the body. And in a sense, you're saying we are the body. Like, the truth and the beauty of the world is the body, the naked body. But if you take the metaphor of the clothing as obscuring the body, meaning the clothing is bad, but then you describe the body itself as a type of clothing and say that there's some kind of self underneath the body, then the process by which you attack clothing to get to the naked body then becomes a process continued that attacks the body itself and gets to some kind of antibody position. So through the worship of the body, through nudism, we actually come to hate our body. If we double up on our nudism, we say that skin is a type of clothing, then through like a transcendent hyper nudism, we would end up hating our bodies. But I think like the process by which we come to love the naked body, but then we also come to see the naked body as a superficial obscurantism that obscures the true self. That process, I don't know if it's so cut and dry. I think for some people, yeah, some people just love the body, man. And they're just pure lovers of the body, and they don't see any problem with the love of the body. They're just living the bodily life, and it's just good. It's just a good time. I mean, think about that. Think about you're living the bodily life, you're drinking water, and it's good. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can see that. I can feel that. And so I'm definitely a fan of the body. I'm like eating stuff with the body. And so I'm identifying with my body. But then there are times when the body fails me. And I don't like the body anymore. I'm not happy with the body. I'm like, the body's not okay. I know I always use these classes and stuff like that. I've sort of trained the viewership of the channel to only think in terms of classes. I don't know if that was smart. That's just how branding goes, you know. That's just the familiarity of a face that becomes an ideology, that becomes a talking point. The three classes: the body, and the antibody. Hmm. I need more water. When I walk through the desert, I'm draining my body of liquid and of sustenance, and I become frail and thin, and I become small and petite. I become drained, I become gaunt, I become sucked, vacuumed, like a corpse, like a shell. I am enervated. I am desiccated. And then at the end of that process, I'm like, you know, it's the fasting and the feasting. So then it's time for the feasting again. And then you fill up the body, and then you become plump and round and juicy and engorged. That's what happens to the body. So you do that to the body. The body goes through that cycle. Some people call it bulking and cutting. Or you do this to the body. It's not a peaceful process. It's kind of violence. Violence against the body. And, you know, what is the end result? We know what the end result is. The body eventually becomes desiccated, right? But also, it seems that if we were to take an antibody position and talk about the soul as an antibody or an antibody, well, the soul, what would the soul do? Really, what would the soul do? The soul would find another body. So even if you take this soul supremacist position, you just hate the body, you want to get rid of it, the soul's just going to go back into another body. So what are you... When you say that the inevitability of the life is the destruction of the body, but don't you understand that also the soul will eternally return to the body? So you, as much as the body is doomed to die, the soul is doomed to return to the body. You know, so as much as we can't escape the death of the body, we also can't escape the return to the body. So we're always going to be in the body, and the body's always going to be in this process of growth and decay, and that's not satisfying. We want to come down on the side of the soul or the side of the body and just be like, this is the way it is, you know. We want to be ordered and chaotic. We want to be one or the other. And you know, I was thinking about the chaos of life, how chaotic things are, and how, you know, chaos is only beautiful if it's like a firework. That is, it's a stored up potential energy, like a hydrocarbon. If it's got a lot of stored up energy, and then you explode it, and then that can be spectacular. You know, like blowing up. Well, we don't use certain phrases. Okay, we don't use those phrases. Those are trigger words, trigger phrases. But if you blow up the Parthenon, is that okay to say? Can we talk about, let's say I built a temple. None of this works. I'm thinking of everything I'm saying, and none of it works. But I am thinking about, what if you built a giant um, amphitheater? What if you built a Lego tower? What if I built Legos and I built a Lego tower? That's a good one, Lego tower. Yeah. People don't live inside Legos. Legos are not UN historical sites, hopefully. I could build a Lego tower modeled after the Colosseum, the Apocalypse, and the amphitheater. And if I blew it up, it would be quite spectacular. But if I took a pile of dung, if I took some dirt and mud and blew that up, it wouldn't be as spectacular. So, if chaos and sort of ecstatic explosions and whatever, if those are necessary and if those are beautiful, then they're made more beautiful by the order that precedes them. I find that, like, when you have an artist who has a great technique and then they go about kind of destroying or subverting that technique, that can be beautiful. Whereas if you don't know any technique at all, there's nothing to destroy. So, in a sense, the destructive spirit is predicated on the productive spirit. That is the desire to ravage and to pillage and to steal and to be a pirate and to plunder. That spirit is predicated on there being an agricultural peasant class to plunder from. That there are people who are Amish who are waking up every morning at 4 a.m. and milking the goats and, you know, putting on the slacks and the brimmed hat and growing out the beard and doing the same thing every day and drinking water. Drinking water. It's a good thing to do. Oh man. So the one depends on the other, right? I mean, even the wolf. The wolf eats the bunny. What is the life of the bunny? The bunny is a skittish, soy boy who just eats grass. And he's like he's just boring. And then what does the bunny eat? The bunny eats the grass. The grass is boring. And so, like, even the most vicious predators do not exist in a vacuum. They're always predicated upon, like, some kind of plant life or algae or something. Some kind of really boring microorganism that doesn't do anything. Then you could keep going around in circles with that. You could say, well, the sun is pretty awesome, right? But the sun's also pretty regular. Regularity, consistency versus chaos. What is the thing? What is God? Is God the logos? Is he the perfect regularity and predictability, or is he the exception? Is he the unmoved mover, the genius who sprung all the multiverse into action, all the infinite possibilities? Now, is he a god of regularity, or is he a god of, creativity? I'm not sure about this. Is it a dual aspect thing? Is this an unsolvable paradox? But then what do we do? How do we comport ourselves to this dichotomy? What side do we embrace? If both sides, well, in what measure? How do we assess? Where are we in terms of order and chaos? Are we ordered enough? Are we chaotic enough? Is it possible to be too boring, too regular? Is it possible to be too chaotic and too irregular? Should we have more fiber in our diet? I don't know the answers to these questions, but I feel like if you live an extremely ordered life, then it's very easy to, well, I want to say it's very easy to kind of make it chaotic, but that's not necessarily true. A very regular person will just sort of stay regular, right? And they can't be broken of their habits. But a person who's very irregular cannot be broken of that habit either. And that itself is a habit, just being a crazy person in itself is a kind of habit at the end of the day. And even the craziest things become predictable. So if you want to be truly unpredictable, you can't simply be purely unpredictable, right? Because pure unpredictability is in itself predictable, right? If you're like, well, I'll do anything, one moment I'm peaceful, the next I'm violent, and then, well, what does that look like? If 50% of your human interactions are peaceful and the other 50% are violent, you're just a violent guy. If you say, well, so, if I see a person, I'll wave hello, and then the next person I see, I'll stab them. You're a violent person, okay? You may think you're doing 50-50, but you're violent, okay? Whereas if you never kill anybody, and then you make one exception, that's unpredictable. And if you always kill people, but one time you're merciful, that's also unpredictable. So, being unpredictable, being surprising, being creative, different, being unique, special. All things we want because we want to be important. Because if we are not special and unique and different, then we're replaceable. Then we become a quantity rather than a quality. Then we become a degree rather than a individual. And that's problematic because it makes us feel unimportant, and our unimportance makes us feel that we're unmotivated. When we feel that the weight of the world rests upon our shoulders, then we are sprung to action. I think I've overcome this yogurt. Comedy is like life, and life is like comedy. Good comedy is not just about being like crazy all the time. Like different people have different opinions, but take slapstick, or take like Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey is just being crazy all the time. He's just being over the top all the time, whereas like Norm Macdonald is always under the top all the time. And some people find that to be underwhelming. Or take Lewis Black, who's just like screaming, sputtering, stuttering all the time. I don't find him funny. I find his comedy to be boring. He's just like screaming at the camera, and it's like just calm down. Have some dramatic tension, okay? Have some build up, okay? Like give me some soft tones. Give me some casual, lull me into a sense of security. Give me a little bit of give me some of that sweet monotone. Give me some of that just tell me everything's going to be all right, and then you can start screaming. And you can sort of build up a crescendo, and then you can just have an outburst. And it will be surprising, it will be hilarious. We'll have a good time. Believe me, we'll have a good time. But I don't think Lewis Black is willing to do that. I think he thinks he's a crazy person, but I don't actually find him to be that crazy. I find him to be boring and predictable, right? So you sort of have to be able to be boring. You have to be disciplined. You have to put in the 14-hour day of just reading and learning and listening and writing and repeating and memorizing and contemplating and meditating and exercising in repetition. Reps, we call them. We call them reps. Reps and sets. Reps and sets and form. You gotta have perfect form. You can't have crazy form. You gotta have perfect form. And if you have perfect form for long enough, then you can do crazy feats of strength, but you gotta have perfect form. So, being very regular for a long time enables you to do crazy things. But if you're crazy all the time, then you might not actually be able to do the really crazy thing. It's a weird situation. How do we get people to be super regular? How do we regularize people? How do we put them back in the box? We're trying to get people in the box. I think the world wants us to get out of the box. I think the box is good, but we've come to hate the box because we're constantly being brainwashed and told there's something good outside the box. And where are you? They're conspiring with the archaic elements of ourselves to get us out of the box. But there's a good box, and the box, you could say it's a concept of a box, and it kind of gets smaller. You sort of hone in, but like there's a big box that's full of some contradictions, and it's not perfect, but what's inside the box is better than what's outside the box. So you got to get inside the box. And then when you're in the box, then you start to say, okay, well, we got some contradictions. We got to kind of narrow that down. And eventually you get a nice little singularity going on, hopefully. But you got to get in that box. If you're not in the box, then difficult. So how do we get inside that box? How do we stay inside that box? We have to know what the box is. We have to be motivated. We have to have an attractive force within the box keeping us in the box. A box force. We got to have people in the box. Because if everybody's outside the box and we just want to be with the people outside the box, all the cool kids are outside the box, we got to have cool kids in the box. Kids have to be loving the box. We need to have a brotherhood of the box. We need to have a boxing brotherhood. We need to have the bros of the box who want to keep it in the box. Keep it in the box with your bros. Because if you can't keep it in the box with your bros, then you're going to get out of the box. And then you're going to be all over the place. You're going to be like, that guy that jumped off the Empire State Building. He was out of the box. His body was everywhere. Keeping the body in the box. That's what, when you look beside yourself and you see your brothers in the box and you think this is great. You want to emulate. You want to compete. You want to impress. You want to compliment. You want to assist and help. So, Brotherhood of the Box. That's a good phrase. It's a good title. Thank you. Bye-bye.